Mark Kaboly was getting fitted for a mouth guard yesterday. Couldn't join us in his scheduled Monday time slot. So he joins us right now. Mark, of course, of the Pat McAfee Show, our Steelers insider. Mark, before we get into the Steelers, and we'll make this brief because I'm sure patience is wearing thin on this. I have been told by people that I trust that Rich Rodriguez will be named the head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers and that he's making an announcement on the Pat McAfee Show today, probably around noon. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, they call me up and run past everything by me. So, of course not. Well, I have no idea, nor do I care about West Virginia football. I care about as much as West Virginia football as Dorin does.
Okay, but you both like me, and I thought that might lead you to ask a question.
Now, what do you think? You think Rich Rodriguez is a fit 13-9?
Moving on to the Steelers, Mark, I'm not going to ask any pointed questions here. We'll kind of ask the questions off of your answer. What is going on with George Pickens to the best of your understanding?
I think it's just a hamstring strain. Those things are tricky. I mean, I know there's been reported about grade 2 strains, and I mean, I think there's even degrees to that. I mean, I just don't understand the concept of leading up to it, of potentially him may or may not be playing. Tomlin might have been playing a little games on CBS Sports before that, because he should have known that, and I assume he did know that at 10:30 before, as he walked in and talked to Tracy Wolfson. I mean, those MRIs pretty much reveal that quite easily. So considering his past, and I'm talking about Tomlin, he's probably going to wait longer than maybe necessary. So he's going to tell you week to week, day to day right now, but I wouldn't anticipate him playing for a couple weeks. And I don't even know if you need him right now. I mean, sure, you need him, but I'd much rather have him week 17, 18 playoffs than a banged up one now.
Well, if you don't think that they need him for Sunday, you clearly think that they could possibly win the game, right? And if you think that, how will that look, in your opinion?
First of all, normally I would be just totally against them going to Philadelphia and winning the game, especially with Pickens. But this team's a little bit different, so I'm never going to just throw out a blanket statement that they have no chance of winning. Of course they have a chance of going out there and winning. I mean, we've seen it all year. I think it's going to have to be much of the same thing. You're going to have to get that multiple receivers involved, like Russell has been over the past 2 weeks. If it's 8, 9, 10 different guys he targeted, you don't need, or you're probably not going to get that big play, or not the big play, but maybe the 8 catches for 100 yards. But if Mike Williams comes down with a 40-yarder, that then helps offset what you might lose from George. If Scotty Miller makes a couple plays, I'm going to use a Tomlinism here, but the strength of the pack is the pack, right? And it is with this receivers, and I think they are talented enough as a group to be able to get through a short-term issue like this. So I think it's just going to be much of the same.
You were critical of Tomlin and his revisionist history after the game, where he pretty much said the pack is the pack thing, and you guys have been asking me about the wide receiver core. But when you try and then ultimately do get another wide receiver, you can't then say, oh, we've had faith in this group all along, can you?
I see. That's the issue I had. I mean, because he looked at it, I mean, and pretty much on his own volition brought this up and saying, hey, I've already had faith in these guys all along. It was a media-created event here of trying to fix this wide receiver room. Both of those are true. You can have faith in those guys, but let's not forget that you went out there and did all you could do for the past 6 months to try to upgrade this room to a level that, we're talking Brandon Ayuk type of level. We're talking about chiming in at all through free agency, looking at the trade deadline to improve. If he was so thrilled with this or thought this group was so great, then they wouldn't have went and looked for that. That's the only issue I have. Let's not make it some media creation. It was their own actions creation of saying that this was a problem area that they needed addressed, and we all agreed that it did. I mean, you got to give these guys credit. They've come out and performed when they've needed them to perform. And I don't think anybody could see that. I don't even think Mike Tomlin would say that. I mean, if you're telling him, if he's going to tell you the truth, the absolute truth, there's no way he thought that these guys would be able to do what they've been doing over the past couple of weeks.
Does Cam Hayward have a case for being Defensive Player of the Year at this point?
Probably not. I mean, league-wise, I would say not that, but he's been playing absolutely tremendous football. I think you have to more look at team MVP for him right now. I mean, you look across the board on the defense, there's some big-time names there that, when you look at them, will have a better chance of getting it for them. But, I think team MVP, Dorin, is one that's very debatable, because you can make arguments for 3 different people, maybe 4 different people, and you wouldn't be wrong on any of them. Russell is a guy that's, the old proverbial straw that stirs the drink. Boz has been unbelievable. Cam was probably going to win it. I mean, just because of how he's played and his, being a veteran and giving it to him, but TJ Watt's been, very good as well. So that's a good problem to have. But I don't think he has much of a shot to win Defensive Player of the Year. But I think it does help his overall Hall of Fame resume, what he's been able to do this year.
Oh, no doubt about that. Mark, general question here. Can they win the Super Bowl, this team?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Is there anything in Russ's game that would tell you that it's not sustainable?
Nah. Other than – no. Everything he's done so far this year, unless – the only thing you could say that could throw a little wrench in this whole thing is when they had trouble protecting him and he wasn't able to have any time whatsoever. Now, that's not his fault there. He prepares. He's talented enough. He's mobile enough. He's smart enough to be able to continue this down this path. I think he has an excellent coaching staff behind him right now that maybe you couldn't say that in years past to this degree. So I don't think so. Of course you can go in there and lose the first round of the playoff games, but I think for the first time in probably a decade, you look at this team and say, yeah, I could see them playing in February. I could see them having a shot here of winning a Super Bowl. But just imagine, I might as well do the Debbie Downer right now. Imagine the craziness would happen if they would lose in the first round of the playoffs again.
Can't happen. Can't happen.
No, it absolutely can't happen. Mark, who's going to be a hotter candidate at the end of the season to become a head coach, Terrell Austin or Arthur Smith?
Wow. I would probably think Arthur Smith, just for the fact that the league likes to go after the nice, shiny offensive weapon. I don't know how interested he is right now, Arthur Smith, of moving on. It would have to be the absolute perfect situation, and I don't know his definition of absolute perfect situation for him to move on right now. Austin, there's some guys ahead of him. You look at Aaron Glenn in Detroit, you would think he would get the first shot of a defensive-minded type of guy. Just you look at the history of hiring of coaches recently, and it's mostly, if not all, been offensive-minded. So I think that's what puts Austin into a little bit of a behind the 8 ball with that.
Well, New England went defense.
Yeah. Washington.
How's that working?
Washington.
Well, that was predetermined, right?
Yeah. Washington
that was
went defense. Raiders went defense. There's one more in there that went defense, too. And now it has escaped me.
Yeah.
And I lost it. Houston.
Oh, no, Seattle.
D'Amico Ryans. Seattle did with Mike McDonald. What are you talking about, Mark? All right, last thing here for you.
Thanks for blowing up my argument, you fool.
Foolish arguments.
How's your mouthpiece?
That's what I was going to ask in a second here. But you watch all these big hogs up front. Steelers offensive line, 6 tackles for loss allowed in the Cleveland game, but they allowed 11 the first time around. I thought they played pretty well against Cincinnati. Is that unit getting better, Mark?
Yeah, I think they are. They've been playing some very difficult competition as well. You got 4 straight weeks of 2 with Myles Garrett, and you got Trey Hendrickson, and Baltimore always brings the pressure. So I think they've, as it has the first 2 years under Pat Meyer, the longer they get into the season, the better off they've been. Broderick Jones, you haven't heard his name much over the past 3 or 4 weeks. He's seemingly figuring it out. The interior guys are just getting better and better. Frazier, McCormick, and Sam Alwa's just a rock. So I think that's the key to the entire season. Now, moving forward, how far they go in the playoffs is how well they can protect Russell Wilson. If they're able to protect him, I think they have a legitimate shot of going as far as they can. But there is a bunch of young guys there, and they're going to bring a lot of different pressures at them. But I think it's been a good run for that offensive line as of late.
Did they fix your sleep problem, Mark?
I don't know. We'll find out, man.
Do you have the mouth guard?
No. Yeah. I mean, this thing was the most complicated thing I've ever seen in my life. They're like, I don't know. Now I got to go back for like pictures and stuff of your. I thought it was the old school, Dorin. Dip the old mouthpiece in the boiling water and squeeze it, and you're good to go. No, it's some kind of like 3-dimensional something or another. I don't know. I got to get more than an hour and a half of sleep per night, but I appreciate you. Cal is blowing me up while the guy's hands are in my mouth on the phone, so that was pretty nice.
Mark, appreciate the time. Thank you for being flexible.
All right, fellas.
Goodbye. Mark Kaboly.
Yeah.
Formerly of The Athletic, now of the Pat McAfee Show, 93.7 The Fan, Steelers insider.